What's up everyone, welcome to a new episode of What I Watched This Month, December edition. As usual, I watched a lot of shit this month, so let's get into it. I kicked off the month with Private Life, directed by Tamara Jenkins. This did not do much for me in the moment, but by the end, when the weight of the film settled in, I was like, that movie was pretty great. Jenkins does an excellent job at letting the viewer simply be with this couple. It's very Bombackian, and I can't wait to see her find her own voice and evolve from this, and you guys should all check it out on Netflix. I then watched Chris Stuckman's short film Notes from Melanie. He's still finding his voice as a filmmaker, and although the project isn't anything to write home about, it's clear there's ambition and heart underneath. Very few filmmakers start off making great films, cut the guy some slack. I then continued my Bomback binge that I still haven't finished and watched Mistress America. I wish I loved this a lot more than I did. In the moment, I loved everything he was giving me. It was typical writing from him, Greta Gerwig was great, and there are some lines here and there that really stood out. But I guess this just wasn't the time of my life to experience this. It wasn't by any means a bad film, I enjoyed it, but it's definitely the most forgettable of all his work. I then watched a French animated movie on Netflix called I Lost My Body, directed by Jeremy Clapin. I love this movie a lot, and it should be getting some more buzz than it is. The story is wildly original, the writing is very layered and also very funny. Sure, the animation isn't anything groundbreaking technically, but it's a fantastic example of how far you can push storytelling with this medium. Then I rewatched Jojo Rabbit. Still love this film a lot, but the beginning dragged a bit more than I remember. Full thoughts are available in my TIFF video. Then I watched It's a Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood, directed by Marielle Heller. Being a fan of her last film, Can You Ever Forgive Me, I was excited to see how she'd explore Mr. Rogers now. I gotta say, I'm a little let down. Matthew Rye's performance was never working for me, and the film really struggled to find who its audience was. It felt like a mature film for children. I appreciate how weird it went, but at the same time, some of that weirdness felt too out of place for what this film wants you to take away. But I will say, Tom Hanks delivers a performance that is definitely worth the praise, some of the best work he has done in years. Then I watched Jenny Slate's stand-up special Stage Fright. A lot of her jokes weren't necessarily laugh-out-loud funny to me, but they were enough to make me smile. More than anything, they were enough to keep me very entertained. That, combined with the interesting documentary approach, made me feel like I knew Jenny Slate pretty well by the end of the special. I am definitely a fan now. Then I watched Little Women at an advanced screening, and I loved it. This is one of my favorite movie-going experiences of the year. The crowd was very excited to be there, and everyone was vocally as into it as I was, but not in an annoying way. My full thoughts are on Letterboxd and in my top 10 video. Then I watched Her Smell, directed by Alex Ross Perry. This film is absolutely filthy. I genuinely hate the fact that I was never able to see it in a theater because the sound design and cinematography made this thing the grimy experience that I got. Elizabeth Moss delivers, as you've probably heard. I thought this was super interesting and super emotionally demanding, but I felt just a little underwhelmed by the end. Alex Ross Perry has a very interesting vision though, and I'm looking forward to checking out his other work. Then I watched 20th Century Women, a film I've been wanting to check out for a while. This thing was just really comfortable. I enjoyed every shot, every scene, and every minute of it. Did it feel like it had more to offer than what it gave me? Sure, but I feel like I got a lot out of it as is. It's a very clever film that I'll definitely be holding on to for a while. Then I watched A New Hope. Nothing new to say, it's fun. Then I watched My Favorite Shapes, a quote-unquote stand-up special from Julio Torres. This is easily one of my favorite specials I've experienced. Julio Torres is very good at his style of comedy, even though it takes a very specific mood to enjoy it. If I'm ever having a bad day, I will most definitely be watching this again. Overall, I think him and Tim Robinson are some of the most exciting comedic voices to watch as of now. Then I watched... Then I rewatched The Last Jedi. I was not in love with this film the first time I saw it, mostly because I wasn't paying a lot of attention because I had a really bad stomachache, but this time around, having a better understanding of the place it holds in the history of the franchise, I think it's my favorite Star Wars film. I know you all probably want me to elaborate on that, but we have a bunch of other stuff to get through, so I'm going to leave it at that. Then I watched The Rise of Skywalker, the most critically acclaimed film of the year. As you could probably tell from that last review, I care very little about Star Wars. I think they are loads of fun, and when they're done differently and in an ambitious way, I think it's super interesting to watch, but I also get a kick out of dumb space stuff. This was a lot of that, and some of the plot points were objectively idiotic. It's kind of hilarious to me, but I genuinely had a fun time watching it, and yeah, I'd see it again. Here's how I'll put it. If they had done something smart with these characters and had an ending that actually made sense, I probably would have had the same reaction. This is just not a franchise I take that seriously. Again, if it's done well and demands my attention in a serious way, then I will do as the film says and have a good time with it. But if it's evident that it's just a dumb Star Wars Disney movie, I will stop caring pretty fast and just let loose. I did that with this film and I laughed and I had a fun time. Then I rewatched It's a Wonderful Life on Christmas. It was wonderful. My family followed that up with Bad Santa, directed by Terry Zwigoff, the director of Crumb. I always found it kind of funny that something as corny as Bad Santa was directed by the same guy who made a masterpiece like Crumb, but honestly, seeing how vulgar each film is, I'm not surprised. It makes a lot of sense. This film is gross and dirty, but certainly not heartless. In fact, it was one of the more touching Christmas films I've seen, which is kind of hilarious. If you haven't seen it, check it out next holiday season, and and okay, moving on. Then I watched John Mulaney's new musical, The Sack Lunch Bunch. As expected, it was hilarious. I have nothing else to say about it. Then I rewatched Little Women, but had to sit in the front row in the corner. I nearly broke my neck, but it was worth it. Then I watched Fantasia for the first time. I used to have a plush Mickey Mouse from the movie and always wanted to see the damn thing, but never got the opportunity. My family got Disney Plus, and with that I was like, now's my chance. To me, this was like the 2001 of animation. It felt larger than life and like a total trip. It was just one of the most impressive things I've seen Disney do. I can't really say much about it as of now, but I can't wait to show it to my kids. Then I watched Bombshell. It was simultaneously not as bad as I expected it to be, and worse than I expected it to be. This was totally meant to be a TV movie, and then they were like, oh, we can maybe get some awards out of it, and here it is in theaters. I'm all for a film on this topic done at a mature and in-depth level. I think it's very necessary, but this just felt really shallow and empty. It lacked any sort of style and was all over the place morally. It just felt like a waste of potential. But I won't lie, Charlize Theron, Margot Robbie, and Nicole Kidman all killed it. I guess what I want to say is I saw it last week and I already forgot about it. Then I watched The 39 Steps, one of Hitchcock's earlier films. I loved this a lot, so much interesting storytelling going on here. The camera is doing things I simply cannot wrap my head around. Sometimes I forget how good Hitchcock is, and then I watch one of his films and I'm like, oh, this guy's a legend for a reason. Then I watched Modern Times, perhaps Charlie Chaplin's most well-known film. I absolutely loved this thing. In the past, I always appreciated Chaplin's work more than I genuinely enjoyed watching it, and with this, I had a fantastic time. It's very hilarious and ahead of its time in a lot of ways. I guess that's why they call it Modern Times. Then I rewatched Marriage Story, and I am not talking about this film for the 100th time on this channel. Then I finished the year off with Caddyshack, a pretty underwhelming film to end the year/decade on, but a fun time nonetheless. It never fails to make me giggle. If you haven't seen it yet, what are you doing? And that's it. What'd you watch this month? Let me know in the comments. As always, thank you so much for watching. Check out all these films and form your own opinions, and I'll see you guys in the next one.